Hi folks, today we're going to look at some 2D design in BASIC. So when you open 2D design, this hopefully is what you should see. So at the top we've got various toolbars and icons which can be used, and you have another toolbar here to the left, and then you have another toolbar here to the right. So one of the first things I do to make my life easier when I'm going to draw anything, I find it really useful to set my page size to the size of the bed of the laser that I'm working on. So in the old days it would have been a laser cam which had a 600 by 400 bed, which is just a bit bigger than A2. Now we've got a much bigger one. So one of the first things I would do is go to, you notice there all these were in grayscale, so you click on this page and that will activate them. And then if you go to setup, bring the cursor down to drawing and across to layout, click on layout, dialog box appears, click in there, and I'll frequently set mine to at least A2, if not A1, but A2 is usually quite good. So that's the first thing I do. That sets your page much bigger, and then I go to the little dot box, and what I do there is on an average one I'll set it to 5 with a 0.5 mil spacing. And that's so that if you're drawing something and it needs to sort of split or move, it's easier to do it. Now, depending on what you're doing, if you know the drawing sizes, you might decide that what you're making is easily divisible by 4, in which case you could set your grid spacing to 4mm instead of 5mm. So that's a 5mm grid at the moment, which is what I did in the previous dialog box. And you'll notice what you've got here is you've got grid lock and step lock. Step lock means you can move your drawing whatever you've set it at. I set it at 0.5 millimeters. So if I were to, for example, draw an oblong, I can now use the select tool, grab that, and I can move that now 0.5 millimeter at a time till I get it lined up exactly where I want it, as in that. So I've moved that across and I've got it dead on that grid line. I always like to set my page and my grid and grid dimensions, if you like, because whatever you draw, that just makes it easier. So you've seen that we've got a couple of important tools there. Step lock, obviously you step it, but it can end up in the middle of the grid. If you put something on grid lock, let's hope this works now, that should hopefully snap to a grid. Now, as you can see, the reason that's not quite snapping to a grid is because it's not perfectly sized to the grid. However, with grid lock on, if I now put that cursor anywhere, it will go to the nearest dot. When I draw and stop, it will follow a grid pattern. So it will be the size of that grid, whatever that size is, and wherever you move it, as you can see, it will jump. As soon as you move it a bit, it will jump to the next grid line, but whatever you do, it stays on that grid pattern. So they're really handy basic things to know. So we'll select those and delete. So the next thing is, there's your plus and minus. So if you wanted to enlarge this screen, just hit plus or hit minus. Simple as that. So I'm not going to make this too long. I'm probably going to do a little set. This is like a basic introduction to your toolboxes and what's in there. And I'll focus more on doing some basic drawings, how to use individual tools as we go through. But I just wanted to introduce you to the toolboxes. So that's the attach tool. So if you were drawing a single line drawing, like that, which is pretty, there's not much else you can say about that. But if you use that attach tool and then you say I want to attach that to that and that to that and then that to that and then that to that, you can see what happens. Yeah, so you can either attach it, in which case now you could go to delete any, select on the hyphenated one, and you can either join up lines where you literally join end to end, or you can cross them and then delete off the bits you don't want. But I find it easier to actually use a box. But that's what the align tool does. If you were doing a drawing and a line was broken, you can attach two ends together and connect it back up again to make a complete perimeter. This is the radial lock tool. Now that's quite useful, because if you decided you wanted to tessellate something, your material was only a certain size and you wanted to shift that around on the bed ready for cutting, what the radial lock tool does, if you want to turn it around specifically 45 degrees, that will give you 45 degrees or 90 degrees. If you try and turn it by hand, it doesn't. So if we delete that and we just take that off for a minute, it doesn't like it if you draw something when that is on, and it's also better to take it off when you want to move something. But if you now select that, you can rotate it through 45 and then 90, yeah, and it comes out perfect. But if I copy that, I copy that like that and I take radial lock off, if I now try and rotate that, you've kind of got a guess. Now, because we did it on gridlock, it's worked out perfectly. But if we now go to step lock and I draw another one that's random and not actually on the grid pattern, it probably won't do it now just to upset me. But I found in the past when I tried to move ones that weren't specific, I found it harder to get it square. Can you see how those lines are jittery and not dead straight? So it's quite fiddly and difficult to get it perfect. And you tweak it and twiddle it and then it goes a little bit the other way, and that's what you end up with, and obviously that's what you don't want to end up with, if that makes sense. So it's useful to understand how that radial lock tool can help you if you want to change the position of something, spin it round or whatever. Now the next thing, if we select one of these, this is quite useful as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little box on there just so that you can see it, make it a bit more obvious. So if I add that, if I now select that and then we go to edit and group, that makes that all one. Yeah, so all I've got to do now is click on there and it will highlight the whole lot. And if I go up to the top there, I can flip it that way around, or I can flip it upside down. That is the copy button, and any of the squares on the outside enable you to enlarge it in that direction. If you take the square on the corner, it will enlarge it proportionately and evenly. So that's quite a useful tool too. So this is your circles templates, and that allows you to do anything with circles. And if you, as you can see, if you pop over each one, there's a little title which tells you what's going on. So if you want to draw a circle, always best to go on to Gridlock. And when you're drawing something, the other thing that's worth noting, in here in the bottom, it gives you the dimensions of whatever it is you're drawing. So if it was a box, it would give you the length and width. If it's a circle, as you can see, each time I come away from the center, the radius is increasing by the grid, which is 5. Yeah, so that circle is 50 mil diameter because it's a 25 mil radius, because we've gone from the middle out. So that's your circle tool. And if I'm not mistaken, if you go on the oblong tool, you can do pretty much the same with that. You can draw a variety of shapes using that tool. So you would select a spot, go across, and you can make your parallelogram if that's what you've selected. Or if you select triangle, then you select a spot, and then the top, and there's your triangle. So you click and hold, and you stretch out, and you release, and you click again to indicate that that's your baseline. Now you can move it and click and hold, or click and release, sorry, and there's your triangle. With all these things, you need to experiment quite a bit and play with it. But there are some basic tools to get you doing basic drawing. Obviously, the line tool, there's a curve tool. That just quickly allows you to draw semicircular lines. If you wanted to draw continuously, then you just double click. So you single click to put a stop line, stop point in place. So we've put a stop point there, but if we double click there, now we can put another curve in that's attached to the previous one. There's an S1, that's very similar, but gives you a little bit more control because you're just single clicking to create a dot space. And then you right click, sorry, if you want to get out of it and leave it. That one, double path, I haven't experimented with that really yet because at this stage I've not had the need. That's a fill tool, so if you wanted to fill that in and make that a diamond etched onto a piece of plywood, for example, you can select that and fill it. That is your dimension tool. So if you want to know how to put a dimension or how wide something is that you've created, you just click on one side, stretch it across, click on the other side. So if I do that, when you do that, notice my cursor is in the middle of the dimension line. If you take it outside, it will give you a dimension that way. So just a different style of dimensioning something, which is very useful when you're trying to work things out. This is a contour tool. So we're going to set the contour at 5mm, fine. So if instead of drawing that twice, if you wanted to make almost like the equivalent of a picture frame, if you just click inside there, that will put a contour, as you can see, all the way around. That's 5mm, and you could put a contour inside that one and that one and that one. Ding. Contour, contour. That's quite a useful tool. This one I haven't used yet, so I can't help you much with that one. Nothing selected. Okay, let's just select the circle. So with this one, I think it helps you. Oh no, that's not the one I was thinking of, sorry. No, forgive me, this is the one. Create a clip path. So I think, oh, shut up. If you select that, I think you can, yeah. But there's, I can't remember which tool it is now. Maybe it's that one. But one of these, if you, for example, wanted to put text around that circle, I can't remember what it is. So you have to write your text in your text box. Oh, go away. So there's your text box. So when you click in here, the dialog box opens. Best thing is to go into settings, because our one is always set at 20, and that's huge. So you can go in there, set the size, select the font that you want, click OK. Gobbledygook, and there's your text. And if you wanted that to appear, I think you can select, oh, golden Bennett. You can select that text, and then you could ask it, and it would put it in a curve around there, or you could put it around the square. It's a long time since I've seen someone do that, but I know that there is a way of doing it. This delete tool, you'll use that quite a bit. Delete with the broken hyphen means you can just delete one line at a time. If you click delete any, it will delete the whole lot. But if you want to modify a drawing like this one, for example, and you click on delete any, you can say, right, I'll get rid of that line, and I don't want that in there. I don't need that in there. I don't need that in there. And it enables you to modify a drawing, clean it up, get rid of any unnecessary bits that you don't like. Undo last is useful, but it only do it once. So there's the basic toolboxes, and a little idea of what they can do. Okay, so I'm going to finish there, and in the next one we'll actually start doing some drawings and making.